I need to stop saying absolutely because I say absolutely all the time.
You absolutely do. I'm just kidding. I don't
I
notice.
really do.
Okay,
I'm like reading it back, listening it back, and I'm like, absolutely, absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
You can't.
So,
It's okay. All right. Well, I'm recording. Let's roll.
okay.
Da da
We're rolling.
da da da. Okay.
All right, we'll get better
Okay.
at that. Big block
Welcome.
of cheese
Big block
day.
of cheese day. Welcome to Wingin' It, the West Wing Podcast, episode 5. The crack.
I got excited about Big Block of Cheese Day, so I just dove right
I
in.
know. It's the official title of the episode is The Crackpots and These Women. But if you are a West Winger, you know that this is the first of our Big Block of Cheese days.
Woohoo!
It's very exciting.
I really love Big Block of Cheese Day. I really love that they have done a real Block of Cheese Day at the White House. And I really love that the West Wing people filmed a little thing for it.
Oh man. Guys, if you haven't seen it yet, you have to look it up on YouTube. The Big Block of Cheese Day promo video for 2015. It's so much West Wing goodness all baked right in.
It is
I think
a lot of wonderfulness.
My heart exploded.
I would assume that like our podcast listenership is probably diehard enough that they've seen it, but it can't hurt to just watch it again. I try and make a habit of it.
It's better than a lolcat. It'll just make your day. So I think any Monday that you just need a little pick me up, don't reach for another cup of coffee. Just go watch that Big Block of Cheese Day promo video, and you feta believe it. It'll make your day better.
You feta believe it. Oh, it's too much cheese humor.
So good.
So we left off last episode of our podcast with me wanting an entire episode of Bartlett getting a dog.
How's that working out?
And I would just like to note, it's well, that's not working out well. But my very first note for this episode is that I would like an entire episode of everybody playing basketball.
Yes.
Because that is how we open this episode.
Lord of mercy.
Basically, I just want an episode of everything. I need more episodes.
That would be nice. My opening notes were open on West Wing pickup basketball game. Josh, and then the emoji with the heart eyes and the smiley face. Because Josh is a baller, and
yeah. Well, and Toby and Bartlett are just going at it in a similar way they were last episode, which I just love.
Oh,
so that it's a great opening to start, and it's a great start for our TikTok for what happens in this episode.
TikTok on the clock. May I make a note that the new theme orchestration is here on episode 5.
Yes.
So no more MIDI sounding opening.
So is this when they really had faith in the series, I wonder?
I guess, but
they're like, all right, guys, we better just hire the whole band.
I think so, honestly.
Orchestra.
But apparently the ratings for even the pilot episode were really good. The studio executives felt confident after they saw the ratings for the beginning. It probably just took a while to get the funding for the whole orchestra.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Also, I noticed, along with the new theme orchestration, Rob Lowe, at this point, is still first in the titles, and followed by Moira Kelly, who is Mandy, and then it's in alphabetical order until Martin Sheen at the end.
For those that missed that was me making a fake, like, fart noise at Mandy, because she's the worst. I was wondering what that was. So, yep, that was, you said Mandy, and just what happened was, because... That's how I feel about it. So, anyway, continue.
All I'm saying is that the order in which the actors are displayed is a direct result of their agent's ability to negotiate it. So, it just points out the fact that Rob Lowe, going into this, aside from Martin Sheen, of course, Rob Lowe had a lot more going on than the rest of the cast in terms of, he was just more of a celebrity at the time.
Well, the series was originally supposed to revolve around Sam.
A little bit more, yeah.
And then when, with Martin Sheen just being the force that he was, it became more of an ensemble. Sort of brought everybody around.
Yeah. But I thought it was interesting that Mandy was the second. So she must have had a good She must have had stuff going on at the time, or just a really good agent, because it was Rob Lowe.
Or maybe they just felt bad that her character sucks so badly.
Moira Kelly. Oh, I knew you would love that. And then also going into the episode where they put all the guest stars, Nick Offerman from
Nick Offerman!
Parks and Rec, man.
I literally, in the middle of my notes, just have Ron Swanson written in, like, huge block letters.
Ron Swanson himself, and he's talking about wildlife. So that's, it's just a foreshadow that's, like, 15 years in advance.
It was really wonderful.
So the TikTok, things that happen. There's a little scene where Josh and Donna are talking, and she mentions a dude that hasn't called her, and Josh is all like, I don't care about those Joe...
He calls him a Gomer.
Yeah.
He calls the dude she dates Gomers.
Yeah.
For those youngins, that's a reference to Gomer from Andy Griffith and being sort of a goofy dude.
Gomer Pyle. See, I knew.
Gomer Pyle.
I knew it. Yep. I love, so when they're explaining Big Block of Cheese Day, Toby says, it's throw open our office doors to people who want to discuss things we could care less about day.
And Sam is the only one who gets on Leo's list in this scene. Leo has like a list of people he's mad at for making jokes about Block of Cheese Day, but Sam's the only one who gets on.
I know. And Sam's like, why not Toby? And Leo's like, I'm unpredictable.
Yeah.
It's adorable.
Oh,
also, we have to visit this for a second, because Toby said, it's throw open our office doors to people who want to discuss things we could care less about. And it should be couldn't care less about.
Oh, you know, that is true.
Script supervisor.
And I'm a purist on that. Mm-hmm. But I think because it's one of those things where it's been improperly used for so often that now it's like accepted as that. But I agree with
Toby
you.
would.
I feel the same way about proportionate and proportional.
Well, now we know that those are the same thing. And we don't have to be such sticklers about it. I'm just saying Toby Zeeler would not have gotten that wrong. He writes all the speeches.
That's true. That is an excellent point.
Thank you. I've been
definitely should be. I could not care less.
I've been trying to make an excellent point for 5 episodes. I'm glad I finally did it.
Welcome.
So moving along.
That's all I've been doing is making excellent points.
I know it. Absolutely, you have.
I'm glad you could join. I hope that sarcasm translates via podcast.
I hope so too. So Josh gets a special card from the NSC, right? National Security Council. Basically giving him...
we have a lot of Josh storylines here. Yeah. A lot of Josh heavy stuff.
Do you hear me crying about it? No.
Well, I mean, you can cry a little bit because it's pretty heavy.
You know what? There are definitely some cry-worthy moments. I mean, I didn't cry because I don't have emotions, but I could see where that could happen.
It was I did not cry either, but it was an interesting episode for Josh.
So Josh is given a card where basically it's like a hall pass. So if there's a nuclear incident, he is going to be kept alive, and the rest of his staff is not. And I love the 90s reference where he puts the card into his wallet next to his video club membership, or his membership card. So like his Blockbuster video card. R.I.P. Blockbuster. We miss you. We love you.
R.I.P. I really do.
We will return our DVDs at midnight. Just in.
That's a whole other podcast. We're going to just talk about things we miss. So
it's on there. There's definitely there's definitely a gap in the marketplace. I'm just saying, not everything is on Netflix. We love Netflix.
I agree. Not everything is on Netflix. Not everything is even on iTunes.
And I love iTunes.
So there are some movies that you literally just cannot get.
I know.
Which is a bummer.
I know.
So, oh well. Ugh. Now I'm down in the dumps. All right, Big Block of Cheese Day. Woo!
Big Block of Cheese Day. So they're coaching the president in the press room for his press conference. There's so many good lines.
Yes. There are, but can I just say here that no one's going to be surprised by this because it's just more hating on Mandy, but I really don't get Mandy's job.
Well, she's kind of like...
I mean, I get, like, media director, but, like, how are you really that different from Josh? The advice she's giving in this seems like stuff that Josh and not Josh, Sam and Toby should be worried about.
It's true, although...
And I'm just like, get out.
I know, there's a lot of overlap. If there was a Venn diagram, there would definitely be some shading in the middle. And she's similar to what we will see down the road as Kristen Chenoweth in her role.
True.
But again, it is more just like, is it only the public perception that she's concerned with, not at all the actual words? I don't know.
Yeah.
Bartlett says, I think this press conference is about we haven't had a press conference in a while. And I think that was funny.
There are a lot of good lines in this one.
Then Sam's first cheese appointment, if you will, is the UFO guy. And are you a Scrubs person? Did you watch Scrubs with Zach Braff? I
didn't know.
Okay, well, we all have our homework to do. And Scrubs, this guy was a regular... I don't know what his title was on Scrubs, but he was like an insurance guy that was like sweaty and nervous about everything because it takes place at a hospital. Mm-hmm. And he is just so typecasted and in such a great way as this guy who thinks that there's UFOs. And
he played that perfectly.
Yeah. And Sam totally blows him off and he's like, here, have a pen.
Right before we see Sam, though, Toby and Bartlett sort of go, I think it's right before we see Sam. It's before it in my notes. So, because I made a note of, I mentioned in the very first episode that there are a lot of times that I don't like Toby, but I think it's in the way you're not supposed to. But one of the times that I really don't like it is that when he goes too head to head with the president, like when it's just too much, because when the president of the United States ends a conversation with you, it's over. Like, I just don't think you keep arguing. And well, to an extent, because I think there are people who should push him and who should be there to be like, well, no, Mr. President. But the way that Toby does it is it just irks me to no end, because he definitely, there are so many times, and this comes back later, but there are so many times that he thinks he is more righteous than Bartlett, or just that he's more right, period. Yeah. So it just, I sort of make note of moral superiority, exactly. And it just kills me. And there's another huge scene with Bartlett and Toby later where Toby just does not stop, and he should. And it just gets me every time. I'm like, dude, just shut up.
It's tough. But it does make for some great television, I will say.
It does. It's a great dynamic for sure. And I think we're supposed to be that, like, we're supposed to be thinking, Toby, stop talking. So those are the moments when I feel like that's it. We're sort of guided to feel that way. But back to the happy, funny thing, Sam and the UFO is my very next note. And it is just my favorite, because the very first thing he says is, the guy's like, I'd like you guys to pay more attention to the UFOs. And he's like, are we paying any attention now? And the guy's like, no. And he's like, oh, thank God. I do love that.
Yeah, it was pretty great. I hadn't realized until we were in this episode that there are more than one Big Block of Cheese episode.
Because I didn't realize that this one came so soon in the series. We got to episode 5 and it was Big Block of Cheese Day, and I was like, all right.
I was expecting there to be, I just remember the other one where they're handing out assignments and everybody's like trading theirs, like they're trading like Jell-O at a lunch table. I'll give you this one.
That's when CJ meets the cartographers, which is one of my favorite moments.
That's what I was expecting to happen, was the map of the world, and I didn't get it. Yeah. So I hadn't realized until this episode that there was more than one. And apparently they're supposed to be doing them once a month. Did you catch that?
I didn't catch that, but that we do not see it that often.
Yeah, they're like, we're supposed to be doing this the beginning of each month. And they said, well, we've only done this twice in 12 months. He said, well, we're a little bit behind then. So I guess that accounts for it. Then let's see what happens. Bartlett finds out that Zoe's going to be coming, and he's going to make chili.
He does, but right before that, a tiny favorite moment is he's actually talking budgets with Leo in a group. This is like right before he finds out Zoe's coming. He's talking about the budget. He's talking about something
in the Roosevelt room
with a group of advisors. And I thought it was so cool because in the last few episodes we've seen him be very insecure and a little weak about the military. Mm-hmm. And so it's neat that they put this little moment in of this is his sweet spot. Yes. Like, this is what he can do. Yes. And it was just really cool to just see him totally in his comfort level, in his element, just making sense and just doing what he does. So I thought that was really cool.
Good.
But yeah, then we find out Zoe's coming.
Yay! And what's the actress's name who plays Zoe? Do you know that off the top of your head? I can never remember.
Ooh.
She's been...
I do not. She's in Mad Men now.
Yes. She's done a lot.
Yeah.
Who knew?
I'll use the Google.
You can use the Google. So Bartley.
I'm on it.
My notes say Bartley. Silly Siri. And I love when he invites everyone, like, hey, Zoe's coming home. I'm going to make chili. And they're all like, oh, yeah, okay. And then he says, okay, now everybody look down at that big seal in the carpet. Then look back up at me. And then he's like, so who's coming over for chili? And then everybody's really excited because they realize he's the leader of the free world and it's their boss.
I love that scene. And I love when, he's just in such a good mood because Zoe's coming. I love, just like the drugged up Bartlett from last episode, I just love when there can be fun and joyfulness in the office, because so often it's the exact opposite. And it's Elizabeth Moss who is going to be coming in as Zoe.
Ah, okay. I wrote down that I have no idea what Charlie really does, because Bartlett already has 6 secretaries. So I think Bartlett had him like, oh, hey, Charlie, tell so-and-so, like, about the chili. It wasn't like, hey, Charlie, can you go buy the ingredients? It was like, hey, Mrs. Landingham has the recipe, and tell the steward's office or something. Like, there's a whole different department that actually does the, like, getting of the things. So it was like, what exactly does Charlie need to do? Nothing, probably.
I think, like, in general in life, I think a better, like, because they call him the personal aide, but I've also heard it referred to as the body man. Yeah. And I think that's kind of a good description, because it's more of like...
But it's not...
Well, I think it's more his immediate needs. And it's more like I think that they have a job of keeping him in line a little bit too. I don't know. That it is an interesting point, because he has so many secretaries already too.
Yeah. Maybe it's like a sounding board, you know?
Yeah, that would make sense.
Like, he always has a sounding board. And, yeah, just connecting the dots, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that one of the body men from Barack Obama, wrote a book.
Ooh.
So that would be an interesting read. Yeah, ex-Obama body man writes a book. He was, Reggie Love, he penned a book on his experience working alongside the president.
Nice.
So, yeah, so that would be interesting, really. He worked there for 5 years.
Wow.
As a personal aide.
That's so cool. I wonder, like, what could you possibly put in a book that you're allowed to put in a book? That's
what's a good question. It says it follows him from his first interview with Senator Obama to his near decision not to follow the president-elect to the White House.
Oh.
But obviously, eventually, he did. So
I was kind of wondering the same with Hillary Clinton's book, which I did get on audiobook, but she only reads the first, like, chapter and a half, and then somebody else who has a similar voice reads the rest, and then I kind of lost interest.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, it makes sense, because it's a long book, and she clearly doesn't have time. She's too busy writing emails from her Hotmail account, so,
yeah.
But anyway, I'm just kidding. I know it's not Hotmail. I know it was, GeoCities or whatever.
Oh, it wasn't Hotmail?
No, it wasn't. It was like ClintonEmail.com.
So after that moment, though, in the Oval Office, we have a moment with Josh and Sam. And it's worth noting that we've already had a moment, since Josh got the card, he's already had a moment of being sad about it. So this happens multiple times.
Sad about the fact that
throughout the episode.
He got a card, so he would be rescued in the event of a nuclear episode, but none of his staff would. And none of his friends have been chosen as well.
Right, which is what he finds out in this scene, because he's talking to Sam and he's like, how did you feel when you got the card and you knew that, I can't remember his name. It's not Ginger.
Kathy?
Oh, I can't. Kathy, maybe? Yeah, Kathy. And then Sam's like, what card? And so he realizes slowly that Sam did not get the card. And that is a very sad moment. Josh is as CJ says, really very sweet sometimes.
It's so true.
Later. So it is. It's a pretty tough moment.
Yeah.
So.
So from there, we move on to CJ's first cheese appointment, where Nick Offerman, Parks and Rec, he and his cohorts want $900 million to build a wolves' own roadway for Pluie the wolf and similar folk. It's just great.
And it's just great. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it literally, it's just wonderful. And one of my favorite things about it is that they get so heated about it for a minute, and then, so you're thinking about these wolves, and you're thinking about this highway, and then they're like, let's move on to the grizzly bear. And you're just sort of dying to know, like, well, what's proposed for the grizzly bear? Like, $1 billion, like, subway system?
Yes.
Like, I don't, yeah. So, it just is funny that this is just the first ludicrous idea, and there's more to come.
And that lady, like, there were two dudes, and then the lady sitting down, and she had daggers. I mean, she was, like, pissed.
She was really upset about Pluie because Pluie died.
And
so, she was very upset about it. And Ron Swanson was really passionate. Pre-mustache, Ron Swanson, he was pretty passionate about it.
Yeah,
so
but she just felt like CJ was not taking her seriously. But come on, $900 million. She's like, what else would you do with $900 million?
Yeah.
Oh.
I could think of like one or two things.
But this has to happen all the time at the White House on Big Block of Cheese Day. I can only imagine. Just really obscure, specific things that people are passionate about.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Josh goes to see his shrink. To talk to him about how he's...
Wait, pause. Before that, fun, interesting tidbit. Toby is talking to Mandy, which, yuck. Toby's talking to Mandy for a second and finds out that he was second choice for the communications director job.
Yes.
Which is interesting. It's interesting in itself. I think it's kind of a cool storyline because Toby thinks he's so superior that he could not grasp that somebody else would be wanted before him, but also because the person who is said to have been the first choice, David Rosen, there is a character named David Rosen on Scandal who is played by, drumroll please, Josh Malina.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
You just
so how interesting is that?
My mind.
Isn't that so crazy? I think that he's most likely named after that. I can't imagine that it's that much of a coincidence. Well, I looked it up and it said, I read online that like it is referenced that that's where the name came from, but it seems odd either way. It seems like a big coincidence if it wasn't, but it seems like it seems odd to pick up from such a small point. I don't know.
It's kind of a common name-ish.
Yeah, that makes sense. But very strange that Josh Malina would play him.
Josh Malina, for those who are just following along and have not seen this for more than 1,000 times, he becomes a recurring character on The West Wing later on. Yeah. So you'll come to know him.
He does. And non-spoilers, but for those who are following along with this, who have already seen the end, if you remember the arc of not Josh's story, but Will Bailey's story, if you remember where he ultimately ends up, it's even a little more eerie, but knowing that that's David Rosen is who, hopefully people who know will get that, and if you don't, just ignore the last 5 seconds.
You should form
isn't that just really crazy?
It is. I feel like you should form a Facebook group for like all of the people that have noticed that, and you and those other 4 people can like go out to Olive Garden and talk about it.
Yes, I think that'd be awesome.
Those endless breadsticks,
I'm down.
That doesn't sound like a bad time.
Think I thought that was because I just heard it in the story and I was like, David Rosen, that sounds so familiar. Wow. And it is.
That's cool.
So Hollywood's a small world, dude.
Yeah.
Not really.
It's kind of like when on TGIF back in the day, during sweeps, when they try to really get a spike in ratings, which I don't really know what sweeps is. I know what it is functionally. Yeah. But when they would always have like Urkel show up on Step by Step, it's one of those.
Yep.
or like Uncle Jesse show up on
crossover episodes.
Sister. Yeah, there's a cross promotion thing. It's just like that, except this has been off the air for sadly a long time.
It's really weird. Yeah. So a fun trivia fact. I just am full of those.
I love that.
So now into the Josh therapist situation, because this is a doozy. We get a lot of Josh backstory in a very short amount of time. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty tragic. So to explain, Josh in this therapist scene reveals that his sister was killed in a fire while babysitting him, and he ran out of the house and she did not. Mm-hmm. So now we sort of see his sort of complex about this card has to do with losing people in the past.
Yeah, and they got to the heart of it so quickly. You know, like if they
did.
had more time, they would have done the whole like walking through his response, but the shrink just cuts right to it and he says, Why are you alive? And then you did what you were supposed to do. You were just a child. I mean, like, how quickly, because of the limited amount of time, they just, like, cut to the chase. And
which, I imagine you were a fan of the musical element of this moment.
Yeah. Ave Maria.
The Ave Maria. Mm. Yeah. Mm. So, which The West Wing has many musical moments. I mean, for diehard West Wingers, if you say hallelujah... If you're hearing hallelujah in your head, it's an emotional moment.
Oh gosh.
And many others too.
And we get some guest stars. Maria. We get some musical guest stars. James Taylor, Yo-Yo Ma.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Penn and Teller. Not musical, but magical. Yep. Okay, what else? So what?
Another funky name thing. Josh's psychiatrist is named Stanley.
Yes.
Which will come back again because there is another psychiatrist. I think the only other psychiatrist on the show is also named Stanley.
True. And I was wondering if that was supposed to be the same person or not. Like, you know, when...
I don't think so. No, because when he meets Stanley, they're meeting for the first time.
True. Okay.
When he meets Stanley number 2.
So he's had 2 shrinks named Stanley.
Yeah, so let's unpack that. Well, we're gonna need a third shrink also named Stanley.
Yeah, we're gonna rename this episode a Josh and 2 Stanleys. 2 shrinks named Stanley. It takes a village.
Let's just have an entire episode just of Josh going to psychiatrists named Stanley.
Yes. Okay. I'm all for it. Okay, so then he talks to CJ, and CJ's trying to like kind of console him about the fact that, you know, he got the hall pass for the nuclear episode and she didn't. She's like, well, that makes sense, Josh. They don't need a press secretary. It's going to be fine. So then at that point, I kind of think the scene's going to be done, you know? But then he goes off onto this whole thing about smallpox and how, like, the next World War is going to be something about smallpox. And then she has to calm him down again and tell him to come eat chili. So I guess, you know, they could have ended the scene sooner, but I think it just goes to show how much, I don't know. I don't know what the function was. Just the fact that Josh is so passionate about his work and the people that he loves, and I think that's it. I don't know.
Right. I always wonder, though, when they have scenes like this, I sort of wonder, like, I mean, and the answer to this is almost definitely no, because criminals are already thinking about these things, but I wonder if, like, let's not give anybody ideas. Like, I sort of am thinking, like, okay, well, you're making that seem really easy. I hope there's not a psycho person at home listening thinking, oh, maybe I should get my hands on some smallpox.
I know. Well, you know what? Honestly, I don't feel like anybody who's watching The West Wing is thinking about that as much as I would say somebody watching 90210 or something.
Right.
I'm just kidding.
I do love the line where he says, do you think you have to be crazy to make something miraculous? Mm-hmm. I like that. Mm-hmm.
So. I love the scene with Toby and Bartlett where they finally clear the air and he's like, I guess we haven't been getting along so well. I guess I've been irritating you. And he asks him point blank if he was the second choice. There was just so much beautiful truth in, you've got to think, like, healing in that moment.
Yeah.
And they talk again about some of the smack that they were talking on the basketball court at the top of the episode. And Bartlett asks Toby, like, do you really think that the demons are shouting down the better angels in my brain? I mean, you just don't hear, you don't hear that on TV.
No, you really don't. Yeah, that's a good scene. And I kind of liked it too because I had been thinking, watching this, I've been thinking, like, I really don't remember the president and Toby, like, butting heads this much. And I think it does calm down. I mean, Toby's always combative, but it really has been crazy in the last few episodes. So I was glad they had that scene, and I was like, oh, okay, like, this is supposed to be a thing. Mm-hmm. I'm not going crazy.
Yeah.
So.
Man, so good.
So then we have our party scene.
Chili time with Zoe.
Yep. Where we have a pretty notable, possibly controversial moment.
What?
Not so much controversial, but the speech on the women is sort of maybe controversy is too strong. I think there are just people who are on different sides of whether it's condescending or not condescending. This coming from the West Wing Reddit. Shout out to the West Wing Reddit that I just lurk on and don't post on. But it is a controversial thing of, is this scene necessary or is it condescending? An interesting note, most of the men responded that it was not condescending.
Did you find that it was?
Responded,
Did you think it was condescending?
I don't think it was intended to be condescending. I don't think, which, how often do people intend to be condescending? But,
I try on an hourly basis.
I think I sort of just wish it had been left out altogether. Because I just don't think, like, these women don't need those people to be amazed. Like, they're not asking for anybody's amazement. And I think it is just like, them being amazed at it is like, making it seem like it's, like, look at that. They did this even though they're a woman.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like, and yeah, it is still semi-amazing because Washington is tough and it's a boys' town. And, like, like, strong, you have to be a strong woman to make it there, and you have to be dedicated and et cetera. But the same can be said for, you have to be a strong individual, period. So I think they're amazed in that sense. Like, it's not that they're surprised these women are so great, but they're surprised. I don't know. They're amazed. The only one that I didn't find condescending was Miss Lanningham, because they were talking about how she has 2 sons killed in Vietnam. So that was good because she actually has overcome something and still wants to be here. Like, that's why you're amazed. She lost 2 sons and she still wants to serve her country. Mm-hmm. The other people, they're literally just amazed. It's just like, she overcame being a woman to, like, actually do something. So I didn't think it was terrible. I don't think it was this intended sexist thing. And on the flip side of that, some people argued that, like, sometimes there's purposeful sexism displayed on the West Wing, and I don't think this is an example of that. I don't think it was meant to be, meant to show them showing sexism. I just think it was meh altogether, and I sort of just wish it was not there, except the Miss Lanningham part, because I thought that was great. Yeah.
I did. I mean, obviously, I love the part where Josh turns in the card because he'd rather be with these women. It felt like the title of the episode just felt weird in general. Like, the Crackpots part makes sense because of Big Block of Cheese Day, but it's not like there weren't strong, at least in my opinion, there weren't, like, strong female storylines to warrant mentioning it. So it was kind of like,
it felt like putting it in for the sake of putting it in. Like, let's just put it in to please all of the women watching. And
I don't know. I have no idea.
Because there are plenty of episodes where some women have great moments.
Oh yeah.
That it would have been great to do it. But, like, it's like, look at Mandy going toe to toe with Toby. Like, otherwise she wouldn't be able, like, I don't know. It was just, I won't go on about it again, but I just wish it had been left out altogether.
And then,
but we have another. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, and I was just gonna wrap up with just mentioning that this is where Charlie first meets Zoe. So
that's what I was gonna say.
There you go.
We have another important moment because Charlie and Zoe meet, and they're immediately kind of cute together. Their little chemistry together is cute.
Yes.
So.
Well,
it's very fun.
So who's our MVP?
Oh, but also, quick note though, there's no way that pot of chili was feeding all those people in that room. So there's one of my. I feel like I have to notice something weird every single episode.
Well,
but they're like tasting this chili, and I'm like, no way, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Being the germaphobe that I am, I was wondering how many times she had tasted it and put it back into the pot.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, I wouldn't want that chili. Yuck. Not at all. Well, MVP?
MVP? My MVP. This was another episode where I really didn't feel like, where nobody really stood out to me. I mean, Josh has a great episode, but like, not in a triumphant way, in like a vulnerable way. Mm-hmm. So, can I name, I wrote down on my MVP, I wrote Ron Swanson and Pluie. Pluie the wolf who sacrificed herself.
Is that your official?
For the, that's, yeah, I mean.
Is that your official choice?
I think I really don't want it to be, but I didn't like Toby. I didn't, you know what, you name yours. Let me let it simmer for a minute.
Oh gosh, simmer like that chili. Golly, maybe should we give it to CJ? She kind of talks Josh down, and she's involved in the plight of Pluie. It's not like a CJ episode. You know what? Let's just give.
That's the thing, is that it was a very ensemble episode. Like, there really wasn't somebody that I felt like was just like, yeah.
Yeah, and Leo.
You know what?
What?
I'm gonna say Miss Landingham, actually, because even though she's barely in it, we find out that little bit about her backstory, and she is still here at her age, serving her country despite, you know, what you could say her country has taken. Well, her country's not taken. That was not the right way to word that. But I just love Miss Landingham. And I don't know that she'll have a lot of chances to be MVP.
Why not?
I'm doing it. Yep.
Okay, cool.
She's on air for like 30 seconds, but that's fine.
Okay. Well, there you go. I will defer to your judgment. But that is
okay.
Episode 5. The Crackpots and these women. So we're just cruising right along.
Yep.
West Wing.
Yep.
Winging it.
Episode 6 up next.
Do we know the title of that one?
I do not.
Okay.
Well, that's our new sign off.
Tune in next week for episode 6, which is Mr. Willis of Ohio. Not to be confused with Mr. Willis of What You Talking About.
Phew, I was confused. So, great.
Okay. All right, signing off.
All right. Yep.
Cheerio.